You know what I got? I got a picture of his face with the little pillow on, the sleep face, and we're in Chicago.
Are they already in Chicago?
The one and only Leo Biaz. Hey, Leo.
I'm excited to be back, my man. It was 9 days in Vegas. We got stuck in the desert, and we had a little hangover remix out there, man.
I wore a wig to school once, and they said no headgear was allowed.
How did
spider web
was it
tights.
Obvious that it was a wig?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was having fun.
Wig.
See, this is exactly why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun.
You're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
Brother. Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Tell me about this awesome podcast / radio show.
Watching from ringside?
That one, yes.
Yes.
Where we do great impressions like... Now that you're going to do your Macho Man, okay.
Oh, ooh, yeah.
Or, I'll tell you what. What? Or, hey, baby. I can't do... I'm trying to do my Dusty.
Baby.
Hey, baby. How you doing, baby?
How you doing?
I'll tell you what, baby.
Wrestling, watching from ringside. Is that you?
That's me, baby. Live and in living color.
Only on KXVS, baby, the voice of Stockton.
So people in the Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope land are tune in any way you want to because we are watching from ringside.
All day, every day, only on Friday. And maybe Saturday, too. Sometimes on a Sunday, because, you know, they got them special shows. Know what I'm talking about, baby?
Stop stealing my gimmick. But yeah. Ben, let's get into all seriousness. This is like... watching from ringside, as we were talking about, is a pro wrestling show. With
the
fun.
only pro wrestling show on KXGS.
Or in Stockton.
Or in Stockton, yes.
Yeah, come tell us if you're somebody else.
The premier podcast.
Yeah. The premier podcast of pro wrestling talk in the Central Valley is me and Ben. And it's fun. So we talk about the world of wrestling from our perspective and give you the latest going-ons of what's going on in the world of wrestling, right?
Yep. WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor.
All In
NXT.
too.
Yeah, and All In.
Which is brand new.
Brand spanking new.
So we're
Could
gonna
change the face of wrestling as we know it.
We're gonna break down all of that throughout, well, whenever we have a show. So I'll tell you what, Ben.
What?
Watching from ringside Fridays on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. For Ben Sanchez, I'm Dustin Brightfield.
KXVS on 92.1 coming soon. KXVS.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Hello, and welcome to True Talk with Christina, where we dispel myths about housing, real estate, mortgages, and finances so you can make the most powerful choices for yourself, your family, and the legacy you leave. My name is Christina Kimball, and I am a California mortgage and real estate professional licensed in California since 2012. Today, we're talking about rentals, whether it's a primary residence or a vacation rental. So if you've ever rented through Airbnb or one of those websites, which I have, or you're renting your home right now, you're definitely going to want to stay tuned in because I have some very important information to share with you today. Before we dive in, of course, I have my legal and compliance disclaimers to read. I don't know why I get tongue-tied on this part, but I do. As soon as I finish that, I'll give you an update on the real estate market, share a little bit. We're going to bust a myth about a loan program and what's required to purchase a home, and then we'll go deeper into my topic today. Edge Home Finance Corporation is licensed by the Department of Business Oversight under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, NMLS 891464, and my personal NMLS 1484144. We support equal housing opportunity. You can get more information about mortgages on our website at edgehomefinancecv.com, or you can call for more information at 855-428-8554. I'm licensed to help my clients buy, sell, and invest in real estate at Volant Real Estate through the California Department of Real Estate, license number 019-12461. You can visit my website for more information about me and homes for sale. You can also obtain the value of your home, an estimate, at ChristinaKimball.com, or you can call or text me at 209-425-4229 and reach out to me with any questions about the real estate market, or if you have a show topic idea to submit. I would love to hear from you. True Talk with Christina is live at 1:05 p.m. every Tuesday right here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Currently, you can watch KXVS on social media through live streams on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Like what you hear? Consider becoming a supporting member of KXVS. You can learn more at kxvs.org. So let's get into the real estate market. According to our local MLS Metro List, in the Stockton real estate market, as of 9:50 this morning, there are 619 single-family homes for sale, and that's down just 6 from last week. There are 509 single-family homes pending sale. That means they've gone into the escrow process. The seller has accepted an offer for purchase of the home. We have 509, and that is 13 more than last week. We have 52 single-family homes, or there were 52 single-family homes sold since Tuesday of last week. That means escrow has closed and they're on record with the new owner. That number is down 11 since last week. In San Joaquin County real estate market, there are 1,226 single-family homes for sale, and that is 15 more than last week. There are 991 single-family homes pending sale. That's only one less than last week, so that didn't move too much. There are 127 single-family homes sold. There were sold since Tuesday of last week, and that is 3 more than a week ago. And something I thought would be fun to start doing is adding in a mortgage myth buster of the week. So I'm going to do that right now. And this week's mortgage myth buster, I have to say that slowly because that will tongue tie me, is about how much money is needed for a down payment to purchase a home. So there's a whole lot of people who still think you need to put 20% down to buy a home. Maybe you're one of them, and that's okay. However, here's the truth. You do not need 20% down to purchase a home, not even with a conventional loan. So this myth stems from the conventional loan program that people think 20% is this magical number. It is, but it's not required for purchasing the home. Where this 20% myth is coming from is that when you put 20% down on when you have a conventional mortgage, you don't have to pay mortgage insurance. So anything less than 20%, that's where mortgage insurance comes in. And you might hear people mention a term like MI. That stands for mortgage insurance. So you can actually put as little as 3% down. And with some down payment assistance programs, you can even put less than that. However, anything less than 20% is going to cause the mortgage insurance to kick in, and that is added to your monthly payment. So the more money you put down, I'm not sure which way to do my hand on that one, but the more money you put down, the lower your mortgage insurance will be. The less money you put down, the higher your mortgage insurance is going to be. So mortgage insurance, you might be wondering, what does that really mean? Give me some numbers, Christina. Okay, I will. So It could be as little as less than $100. It could be as much as over $300, and that's a month. So that's added to your monthly payment. That's something to keep in mind when you're comparing how much you're going to put down, like say 10% as compared to 15% or compared to 3%. That will help you determine. You always want to look at your comfort level with that monthly payment. So the truth is, you do not need 20% down to purchase a home. It can be as little as 3% on conventional, as little as 3.5%. Actually, again, with the down payment assistance, it could be less. So 3.5% for FHA. We personally, our company, we have an FHA program that's only 1.5% down because a 2% grant is provided. And that's something that does not have to be paid back. You can also, there are loan programs with as little as 0% down. Now, I'm going to circle back to that in a second here. But some example loan programs for that where you would have a 0% down payment would be if you're using VA benefits. So if you're a veteran, if you're buying a home using a USDA mortgage, or if you're using a down payment assistance program. So I wanted to circle back to the 0 down payment. Sometimes people hear that and they think, great, fantastic, I can buy a home and not have to have any money. And that's not quite the truth. This is what we talk about here, right? On this show, it's True Talk with Christina. So 0 down is just the down payment. You're still going to have closing costs, which include things like title fees, lender fees, taxes, insurance, things like that. That's what makes up your closing costs. So there's still some money needed there, whether it's your own funds, somebody's giving you the money, or it's being covered partially maybe by down payment assistance or a credit from the person selling the home. So that's, I want to make sure I talk about that because people hear 0 and they think 0, just 0 all the way across the board, and that's not the case. Now, another little tidbit for you here, if you haven't purchased a home before, or it's been a long time and things have changed and maybe you're not really sure how much money do I need to purchase a home, Christina? Well, it really varies. It depends on the loan program you're looking at. It depends on if you have how much down payment you're putting, because that's going to affect everything, especially if the mortgage insurance kicks in. It also can be affected by your credit score. That determines the rate you're obtaining on the loan, which of course affects your monthly payment. So there's a lot of things that go into this. However, it's not just the closing costs that you need money up front, meaning at the beginning of the process. So when you purchase a home, you pay for, when you make an offer on a home, so you work with a real estate agent, it could be me, unless you have another real estate agent you know, like, and trust. But let's say we fill out that contract. We write the offer. Maybe we go into negotiations with the person selling the home. They finally accept an offer. They sign on that. It's not really a dotted line. It's a straight, solid line, but we'll stick with that. You sign on the dotted line, and you go into escrow. Okay, that means everything's gone to the title company, and now we're moving forward in the process. So part of that process is you have a period within which, according to the terms of the contract, I'll talk a little slower. I get excited and I start talking too fast. So once you've gone into escrow, once your offer has been accepted, there's a time period that is set and it's in your contract. Make sure you understand what you're signing and what those deadlines are. There's a time period within which you can obtain inspections. There's a time period within which you need to have the appraisal done and approved by your lender if you have a loan. If you're paying cash, then it doesn't need to be approved by anybody, really. It's you. Are you getting a good deal? Did it appraise for what you're buying it for? But those inspections and that appraisal typically are paid for up front. So when that pest inspector comes to your home, you're generally writing them a check right then. When the home inspector comes to the home you're wanting to purchase, the property, you're writing a check right then. Or maybe you're giving them your card, whichever it is. But those are things you need to have money for in advance. So when we talk about 0 down, you can buy a home with zero money. I don't know if those ads are still around. There are other costs involved. So I want to make sure you know the truth so you can make the best decision for you. Now, a good thing to do is talk with a loan officer, whether it's me or you have another loan officer that you know, like, and trust, or it's someone on my team. Definitely talk to them. I encourage you to talk with a loan officer, a professional who can help you go over the numbers and determine what program might work for you. How much of a down payment should you do? Maybe you've got $30,000 in the make, or maybe you have $10,000. What's the best way to utilize those funds in purchasing a home? That's where the mortgage professional comes in. If you don't have somebody that you can talk to about these things and kind of go over your options or how you can prepare to buy a home, feel free to give us a call at 855-428-8554, or you can check out our website. There's some good information on there at edgehomefinancecv.com. And again, if you know a mortgage professional, reach out to them. If you're thinking about buying, maybe you're thinking about selling and buying another home, or buying a second home or a vacation home. It's good to have the right information from the beginning so that when you're looking at homes for sale, you're looking, one, within the correct price range. Two, you know that when you're looking within that price range, there's a monthly payment that you're going to be around. You're going to receive an estimate on that, and you can make the better choices. So maybe you want your payment to be under $2,500 a month. Well, then you definitely, if you're not putting a ton of money down, you definitely don't want to be looking at $500,000 homes. So that's why it's good to get the facts, good to apply for a home loan if you need a home. If you're paying cash, then you don't worry about it. Just if you're paying it full outright, you don't have any concerns with that. But just make sure you have the money, whether you have it yourself, someone's giving it to you, maybe a parent or a grandparent, aunt or uncle or someone. Maybe you get assistance from your job, maybe through your union. If you're part of a union, sometimes they have programs that can assist with purchasing your first home. And then for us, I know we have the FHA program with down payment assistance, where there is that 2% grant that does not have to be paid back. Oftentimes with these programs, whether it's through your job or through us, there's a little more time involved. So definitely talk with your professionals, your resources before you start looking, so you really can look the smartest way possible. That saves you time. So I mentioned that we're going to be talking about rentals. And the first one I want to talk about is Airbnb. Have you ever rented a home or a place to stay through Airbnb? I have. Or maybe, what is one of those other ones? HomeAway, VRBO, it's vacation rental by owner. Well, there is an issue that is arising with these rentals, and some cities are getting upset. And on the face value of that, you'd look at that. Why are they getting upset? What is the problem with people trying to make money with their homes or with their properties and offer them as vacation rentals? What's the big deal? Right? So if you see these headlines, you might just, well, what's wrong with them? They're just being silly. But when you dig deeper, there's an article on housingwire.com that I was reading, and this is what it said. Are cities finally fed up with Airbnb's decimation of local housing? Sounds pretty intense, right? Kind of dramatic there. Decimation of local housing. Is that the truth? Or is that just dramatic flair so people will read the article? So here's the truth. When you read the article and you see these things, it's good to dig a little bit deeper. My husband and I, we have enjoyed renting homes through these websites. Here's the issue, and this article addresses that. Specifically, they were talking about New York City, the New York City Council. They voted unanimously to significantly restrict Airbnb and other online home rental services. The council passed a bill that seeks to prevent landlords and tenants from illegally renting out apartments for a few days at a time to tourists, a trend that the city says has aggravated the housing crisis by making short-term rentals more profitable than long-term leases. Here's the problem with this, and as a consumer, I think it's great that people are renting out their homes, and I have some place to go that's not a hotel room that we can stay in and live more like locals do. I mean, that's one of the advantages of that. But here's the issue, and I wanted to talk about this today because if this comes up in Stockton, or if this comes up in San Joaquin County, if this comes up in the Central Valley, you'll have a little bit more knowledge when you're hearing these things, or you're reading these articles, or you're seeing it on the news. Something that to think about is housing. Is there a shortage of housing where you live? For example, for rentals. And there is almost, throughout the state. San Francisco, I think it said that San Francisco had, let me find it real quick. It was kind of a long article. That is when you copy and print it onto a piece of paper, so you can refer back to it. Well, apparently I can't. Oh, there it is. Similar rules went into effect in San Francisco. So according to this article, that's the closest metropolitan area to us that I'm aware of that is having, that's looking at these things, these temporary. And this has been going on for a while. And I never really, like I said, looked deep into it. But when I did, I realized that this really can seriously affect housing, the rental housing market. Because if you've got, let's say you live in your home and you rent it out, maybe you go stay with friends or something, you do this as a side hustle to make some extra money. So it's your primary residence that you're renting out, or you're renting out a room in your primary residence. Nothing you want to do permanently. It's just a temporary thing here and there, maybe a couple times a month or whatever, to make some extra money. Okay, that's not really affecting the housing market, right? So then you're still thinking, what's the big deal? What does it matter? Let these people make some extra money. Here's the other side of that. If people own properties such as condos that they're renting out as the whole unit, or they own another single family home. So instead of making these properties available as rentals, long-term rentals, like you're looking for a place to live, you sign a 1-year lease, that kind of place. So if you don't make your home, your property, it's a secondary home, it might be, or not really a secondary home, a vacation home. So it's not your primary residence. It's a second home you do not live in. Like it said, it could be a condo. I've rented condos to those places. I've rented accessory dwelling units. So a secondary, like, little home on the same property. So those kind of places can be rented. So if you think about it, if an independent, so we're thinking independent of your main home. If you own a property and you're renting it out to vacationers, for example, and they're paying $100, $200, $300 a night. I've seen some very expensive ones for large homes. The smaller ones, you can see them for less than $100 a day. Did I say a month? I don't know. I don't know about that, but a day. It can bring in more money to the person that owns the property if they rent it by the day as a vacation rental, as opposed to a long-term tenant that is living there as their primary residence. That is what impacts the housing availability and the housing market. If you are in a place where housing is already, there's a shortage of housing for people to rent, let alone buy. We're not even talking about buying right now. We're just talking about renting. If there aren't enough homes to rent, like New York, like San Francisco, these places that are putting this legislation into place. San Diego was another one. So if they're renting out these homes, they're saving them. They're not giving them to long-term renters. They're saving them for vacationers who, I'm like one of them. I've taken advantage of these. I've loved staying at these places. However, if I'm renting it, nobody who needs a permanent place to live in those cities, those areas that we go to, can rent that home. That's one less home on the market. Doesn't sound like much because it's one less home. Big deal, right? But if you've got 10 people doing that, if you've got 50 people doing that, if you have 100 people doing that, if you have 1,000 people doing that in a city, that's 1,000 less homes available for rent for someone to live in so that they have a stable place to be when they're going to work, when they're going to school. Maybe they're taking their kids to school, or maybe they're retired, but someplace permanent to live. It's taking a home away from someone who can do that. So it's deeper. The vacation rental thing is a little bit deeper. Personally, I would love to own multiple vacation homes throughout my life. However, if it's a low housing availability market and a high tourist destination, this is when it becomes an issue, because a lot of people would love to own vacation rentals in that place, like San Diego, I'm sure. Now, people who actually live in those cities don't have places to stay. So that's the other side of it, something to think about when it comes to vacation rentals, that this is why these cities are looking at enacting this legislation, passing these bills against these websites, Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, different types of, I don't know about other vacations. Those are the ones I know off the top of my head for vacation rentals, but that's the issue that they're talking about. So on the surface, seems like no big deal, right? Let some people go stay somewhere and have some fun. Let some people who own some properties make some money. Big deal, right? It sounds like a win-win. However, these cities are doing this again. It's because it's displacing. It's not allowing that place to be rented for people who live and work in those areas. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that today because, again, on the surface, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you really look at it in these high tourist destination places, especially that when you've got hundreds or thousands of people renting their homes, it could affect housing availability in a big way in those areas. So that is, that's the issue. That's the challenge that, well, one of them that these companies are seeing, like Airbnb and HomeAway and VRBO and the other rental ones. All right. So the other topic about renting. So that was vacation rentals specific and how it relates to permanent housing for rentals. So the other article that I want to talk about, it's also on housingwire.com, is a bill. I think it's a bill. It's a relief act. That's what it is. So Senate Democrats have unveiled a sweeping rent reform proposal. So this is really important for you to keep an eye on if you rent where you live. This act could bring tax relief to renters. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this act, and then I want to talk about specifically how does this apply to you? Because it sounds good. However, if you don't make a plan, if this gets enacted and you don't have a plan for this, it's not going to provide the relief they're talking about it providing. Because on one hand, it sounds great, but on the other hand, it's like, how does that affect my monthly bills? If I'm a renter, how does that help me pay my rent that's really high? So that's why we're gonna talk about that at the end. So here's a little bit about this act. So the Rent Relief Act was introduced by Senator Kamala Harris of California. I think pretty much everybody knows her name. And it's endorsed by Senators Dianne Feinstein and Richard Blumenthal and Maggie Hassan. It aims to create a new refundable tax credit that puts more money in the pockets of families, especially at a time when rent prices are outpacing wage growth. So rent's going whoop, and the money we're making is going it's not moving that fast at all. So Harris believes that bolstering the economic security of working families will strengthen the country and increase opportunity. And we know, most everybody, at least in our industry, we know that home affordability is becoming an issue, not just in buying and selling, which specifically is what my business has to do with, but in rentals as well. I have a huge concern for the affordability of rental housing. We have a community here in Stockton where the tenants a whole apartment complex. They were given, I believe, 60 days notice to move out because somebody purchased the property. They're moving everybody out. They said as part of the terms of their mortgage, they have to renovate these units. So they're kicking everybody out at once. They're renovating. And I believe I heard if they want to come back in, the rent's going to double. That's a problem. So these are things that affect people who are renting. So here's the details of the Rent Relief Act. It will award refundable tax credits to renters that pay more than 30% of their gross income for the taxable year on their rent, including utilities. This incentive could potentially help many low-income Black and Latino households that struggle to afford monthly payments. So it's interesting. Zillow reported that a disproportionate percentage of Blacks and Latinos could not afford to rent. Could not afford to rent. In fact, the divide's so large that in 28 of the largest 50 metros across the country, including San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Boston, typical Black households can afford fewer than a third of the rental listings that typical white households can afford. So Harris says that eligible individuals can qualify for tax benefit by determining the total amount spent yearly on rent based on the federal government's established fair market rent controls and the family's annual income. So the new tax credit for renter, sorry, I say so a lot, like the one proposed by Senator Harris, could transform lives, providing millions of the lowest income people with the breadth of opportunities that start with an affordable home opportunities to climb the economic ladder, improve their health, and allow children to do better in school. And that was a quote from the president and CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition, Diane Yentel. So although unemployment record is at an all-time low, it's at a record low, I should say. It's a record low. So unemployment is low, which is great. It means more people are making money. However, what I talked about earlier, the wage growth has remained stagnant. So we're not getting those raises like we should to compare with the increase in rent or anything for that matter. This Rent Cafe and Yardi Matrix revealed that rents nationwide crossed the $1,400 threshold, and that hit an all-time high. So there's a representative that introduced a similar Rent Relief Act in the House of Representatives that would offer refundable tax credits to people who live in rental housing. So do you rent where you live? Are you a renter right now? If you are, you're going to want to watch to see what happens with these because you could get some relief if these are passed. Here's the thing. In reality, how much would something like this help you? That's the question. Maybe you don't rent, but you know someone who does. And if they're paying, so let's say they bring in $3,000 a month. 30% of that would be $900 a month. So if they're paying $900 a month or more to rent, this act could help them. But how does it help? Remember, it's a tax credit, right? So unless that money's coming to you every month, it's not going to help you pay your rent, your lease payment, right? So it's like, how's this really going to help people? Here, when you get money back on your taxes, this is what you've got to do. Are you ready? I hope you're listening. You got a pen and paper? You're going to want to write this down. So when you get your tax refund, this is what I highly recommend that you do with it, whether it's this act or you just get a refund. If you are having a challenge, and if you don't have a challenge, listen, because this is something that can help you give good advice to another friend. If you're struggling making your monthly payments on your bills, well, the first thing you want to do is see what you can reduce, right? But if you can't, let's say you're at bare minimum bare bones. You don't have cable TV. You're using the $10 a month internet so that you can do work, so your children can do work or whatever. You're at bare minimum. You can't do more. When you get a tax refund back, save it. Put it in the bank. Put it in an account somewhere. Maybe it will, you don't get really great interest on money just put in savings in a bank. You get slightly more with a credit union. I believe Capital One, they don't necessarily have physical banks locations that you can go into. However, if you deposit money through your bank to them, it's online. You get a little bit better return when it comes to the interest rate, the rate for that money being in that account, you're not touching it. So that's something to look into to help you save a little bit of money. So you want to look at how much money you have coming into your home and what percentage of it is going to rent. So I use that example for $3,000 a month. If you have $3,000 coming into the home and your rent is $900 or more a month, then this, if it passes, could provide some relief for you. Again, it's a tax credit. So it's not like somebody's going to send you a check every month. It's not like your rent is going to be reduced. It's not going to make your landlord accept less for the monthly payment. So you've still got those payments that you're responsible for. However, if we get that tax credit, then maybe you're going to get a refund. Maybe you're going to get a good refund. Maybe you're going to get a great big refund. Yay! Everybody loves refunds. We all love money back, right? However, if it's not saved and taken out a little bit each month to help you make that payment, it's not going to help you on the front end. So this is great that this is being worked on. And given that I'm a loan officer and we see a lot of applications and we see what people's debts are, what their income is, what their income is, and what their current rent is, it's significant. And right now it's prohibiting people from, it's making it harder. There's always a way, right? There's always a way. So I don't want to say it's keeping people from. However, it makes it really difficult to purchase a home if your rent is super high. If it's way up here and maybe you want to buy a home where the monthly payment would be down here, but because your rent is so high, it makes it really, really challenging for you to save money towards that down payment we talked about earlier. So here, what can you do? You might be thinking, what can I do, Christina? Help me out here. My rent's super high. I feel like I'm drowning in rent payments. So first thing, look at what you can cut from your monthly expenses. Are you driving to Starbucks every day? Are you going to Pete's Coffee every day? Maybe if you're me, it's Yogurtland, but it's not every day. It's not every day that I go there. But those are extras, right? And sometimes it's like those little things, it's like a little reward for ourselves, a little bit of joy. And we would never want to be without those. But we did a show a few weeks back with Jody Gambini, financial advisor, and she talked about instead of doing something every day, maybe reduce it to once a week. Whether it's a weekday, weekend, whatever it is, maybe look at reducing those things. It's called fat in a budget, or I prefer calling it a cash flow management plan, cash flow plan. But if there's extras that you're spending, it's where can you reduce those? Where can you cut those down so that instead of spending it on Starbucks, you're putting it in the bank? Or maybe instead of spending it at Pete's Coffee, you're putting it towards your rent. Whatever it is that is going to help you make that. Maybe you're struggling with that rent payment every month. Look at what you can reduce, cut, eliminate, and whatnot. Saving is going to be huge. If you want to purchase a home, you need to have some money in the bank. Unless somebody is going to give you a bunch of money for your inspections. Remember, there's those upfront costs. The inspections, there is a deposit that you put down when you make an offer. You definitely don't want that to be less than $1,000. Generally, it's closer to $3,000, $5,000, or $10,000 or upward, depending on the purchase price you're looking at. You need to have some funds set aside. So where does it come from? Maybe it is your tax refund. Maybe it is eliminating some expenses. Whatever you can do, because if you own your home, you have much more control over what your monthly outgo is for housing. So rent, like I mentioned, the apartment complex where they're kicking everybody out, they gave everybody notice. That sounds harsh, right? They gave everybody notice to move because they need to renovate. They come back, their rent's going to be double. It's highly unlikely that your home payment, if you have a fixed mortgage, I should put out that caveat. If you have a fixed mortgage, that means it's not going to be adjusting. And it's highly unlikely that your mortgage will ever double unless property taxes shoot through the roof and go crazy insane, because that can affect your monthly payment. If property taxes go up, your monthly payment will go up because that impound account that's holding on to those funds to pay your property taxes, it's going to need more money to pay them. Okay, so that could affect it. But somebody kicking you out or giving you notice and saying, hey, we're doubling your rent, or this year we're increasing your rent by $300 or $500, whatever it might be, owning your own home can mitigate that. So we talked about Airbnb and the laws that are coming, that have come to several cities, and it could be becoming more widespread to help keep housing and even affordable housing within cities. Because if it's rented to a vacationer, it's not available for a permanent resident. So we talked about that. And then we also talked about the tax credit bill, the Tax Credit Relief Act that has been submitted to help those who are renting and provide that a little tax relief there. But remember, if you don't save that money and use it towards your rent, or maybe paying off a bill so that you don't have that monthly payment, you can apply more or just have a little bit more freedom or save some more money so you can purchase. So those are two very important things that I wanted to talk about. We talked about saving money, of course, because I was just saying that. Very important, especially if you want to purchase a home. And it's just important in general. So hopefully that was a mouthful. That was a lot of information today. So I've started doing this, and I think it's kind of fun ending the show with what is the holiday for today? What's it a national day of or local day of? And I get this from nationaldaycalendar.com. And today, in case you didn't know, is National Cousins Day, like your cousin. And how can you celebrate that? Tell your cousins how much you love them. Hey, cousins, I love you. Spend some time with them. However you'd like to celebrate a cousin or all of your cousins. You could do that today. And it's also National Amelia Earhart Day. And this is actually her birthday. It's a day that honors her. In case you don't know who she is a famous aviation pioneer. This day celebrates her birth. I was looking at the next thing, not her book. But she is an author, which actually I wasn't aware of that. I just knew she was a pilot. She's an author and American aviation pioneer. Amelia Mary Earhart was born on July 24th, 1897. I need to bring water in here because I get too tongue-tied too easily. So if you're familiar with her, if you're not, she flew solo across the Atlantic Ocean on May 20th, 1932. As a result, she became the first woman pilot, aviatrix, to complete the journey. Setting this record earned her the United States Distinguished Flying Cross. Her accomplishments would inspire women around the globe to the world of aviation. And it was really cool reading about her now, because these are things you typically learn when you're younger. But here at, I'll just say mid-40s, these things aren't at the forefront of your mind. But she received many other records. She wrote best-selling books about her flying experiences. She was instrumental in the formation of the 99s, which is an organization for female pilots. She joined the Purdue University Aviation Department faculty in 1935 as a visiting faculty member to counsel women on careers and help to inspire others with her love for aviation. She was a member of the National Women's Party, and she was a supporter of the Equal Rights Amendment. So she disappeared in July of 1937 somewhere over the central Pacific Ocean near Howland Island. I don't know where that is, but I'm going to have to look that up after the show. During an attempt to make a circumnavigational flight of the globe in a Purdue-funded Lockheed Model 10 Electra. So she disappeared. We don't know what happened to her. So how can you observe this interesting holiday? Well, how about taking a flight somewhere? Maybe you've always wanted to learn how to fly. Maybe it's signing up for a class. She was the faculty. This is what stood out to me. She counseled women on careers and helped to inspire others with her love for aviation. Well, maybe you don't care a thing about aviation, but what is it that you do care about that you can inspire others to do or achieve? That's a way to celebrate her. She did something that a lot of women and probably men look up to as well. And maybe it's taking a look at, what do I do well that can inspire others? What can I do for someone else today? So that is it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in to True Talk with Christina. Next Tuesday, we will not be on the air live, so I wanted to let you know that we will return the following Tuesday. So thanks again for tuning in. My name is Christina Kimball, and this has been True Talk with Christina on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Have a great week, everybody.